putting up this thing together as an institution or as a school, one of the parameters was the fact that there were these 3 existing buildings which already existed on this campus, and they're almost 100-year-old buildings. So how do you respond to that which is already there and then put something there which is new in some sense? Because these buildings were put up by the erstwhile king of Mysore 100 years back for teaching students from the Ursu community. And here we are, nobodies, novices, first-time applicants, building on a place where the king of Mysore had already done so much. I mean, he's credited with the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, the Mysore University, Maharaja's College, the Maharani's College, the Yuvaraja College. So many institutional buildings done by the royal family. If you want to stand next to this kind of a solid achievement, you can only stand next to it extremely lightly, in a manner where you are there but you are not there. So the buildings that we put on either side of these existing buildings were imagined in steel, were imagined in materials which are absolutely in some ways immaterial, which would not compete with the solidity of the existing buildings.
Wow.
Narrative 2 came from the fact that if it was a school of learning and not a school of teaching, then I have to learn myself as a designer in terms of how do you make the spaces which are spaces for learning. The classrooms will still be there, the corridors will still be there, but then can all those boundaries dissolve? Can the wall dematerialize and become an open space? Can the classroom become a part of an outside space? Can teaching happen in an indoor space? Can teaching happen in an in-between space? Can 2 classrooms join together? Can the function of a space change as time goes by? Like we talked about earlier, there are various ways of learning. Then learning environment also should have that much variety, which then opens up the whole factor that you blur the boundaries between what is outside and inside. You blur the boundaries between different activities. Sometimes a teaching space moves into a conference. Sometimes a conference moves into an exhibition. You don't know what is happening when, in which time of the year. With these 2 narratives, this school was built. The idea that not all learning is within 4 walls. There's a huge amount of learning that can happen if you knock those walls off.
Wow.
When I say walls, it's not just physical walls, it's also metaphorically. Sometimes these walls also exist in the mind. When a student looks at the campus, even without saying it, he is questioning the fact, what is a wall? What is a door? What is a window? You're questioning every element of building because sometimes those elements are there, sometimes they disappear. Thanks to somebody like Manjunath, brilliant structural engineer, friend of mine, without his help or without his absolutely creative mind in putting this entire steel structure together, because that is also learning. None of us had built in steel before. The choice of steel was basically to see that how lightly can you build, how quietly can you sit on the ground without disturbing it too much, and keep most of the existing trees and the existing landscape and all the existing buildings, all of them intact without disturbing the ambience of what was already there, and only add to it and not take away from it. That is where this school kind of came together in that sense.